right. Welcome to the Tuesday night Principled Chiro broadcast for DE Week. Yeah, baby. It is time for Dynamic Essentials, guys. Who's excited to be at Dynamic Essentials? Hit that heart button. Hit that like button. Write a comment. Say who's excited. It's okay. Let it out. It is finally here. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting through all the coronavirus stuff, all the election stuff, and finally, DE is here. And I, for one, am super excited to hear that it's here and just have a huge exhale. Oh, it's time for DE, because it's been tough. I mean, look, I got my Christmas decorations still up in the background. I just noticed that. Whoops. January something. What are we, 19th? Those were supposed to come down. But you know what? They're still up because it doesn't matter. It's DE week, baby. And it is time to get recentered with the principle. And let's see. Where's that DE going to be? Let's put up that graphic there. There it is at the Waverly. Kicking it old school. The Renaissance Waverly Hotel in Atlanta, Marietta, January 21st to 24th. Guys, that's less than 48 hours from now, okay? That's Thursday through Sunday at the Waverly. You're going to be a part of history again. This is where all the old D's were. This is going to be like a flashback D where we're going to think about all the people who was a kid. Like when I was a kid, I was running up and down the elevators at the Waverly. We're going to be definitely reminiscing on some DE memories. So you don't want to miss DE. There is still time. If you ever look for a last-minute flight, they are cheap. In the old pre-corona times, they were expensive. It'd be like $10,000 for a flight last minute. Now, they want to fill up the planes. Flights are cheap, guys. You can look right now, and then they got all these new rules coming in. Airfare is plummeting, guys. You can get a flight right now, or you can hop in your car and take a nice road trip and make it to DE this Thursday through Sunday. Make a choice, guys. Get up there and get there. If you're already on your way, I can't wait. It's going to be great. Can't wait to see you there. Now, for this one, there's a very special option. There is a live simulcast that you can be at DE without being there. Just breaking news here. This just came across in the last couple of days. If you want to be a part of DE, but you cannot be there, you cannot travel from Canada, you cannot travel from some other state with quarantine regulations, you can be a part of this movement online and can be there. It's not as good as being there, I'm just going to tell you, honestly. But look at this. You can be a part of it on Facebook Live. Register. Go to lifede.com. We would love to have you there in spirit. Consider it, guys. That is a great option. So if you've been shut out, if you've been not here for a long time and you want to get a little glimpse of what DE is like again, get on that live. I expect a minimum anybody on this to at least be on the live simulcast, at least if you're not there in person. But we'd really like to have you there in person. But if not, the live simulcast will be just as good for this time. And then hopefully next time you will join us in person because you got to be there at DE. So anyway, those are your options. Hopefully you take advantage of one of those options here. Beautiful night here in Stuart, Florida, as you can see underneath the lights here. And when we were talking about our guest for tonight's Tuesday night call, this guy always is just such a tone setter at DE. And he often kicks off the DE to start it, or he'll kick off a Saturday morning. But this guy is just so smooth. He's a super smart guy. He has been super influential in my life personally, in my family's life personally. I know a lot of you think the world of him. The sad thing is, he's in Canada right now. So Canada, mandatory 2-week quarantine. You cannot come back. You have to submit your quarantine plan. They can't get here. So we thought, why not, if he can't get here, let's bring him in on Tuesday night to set the tone early. This is DE. DE is starting right now, guys. We're going to start DE right now this second, okay? And we are going to set the tone right now so that when Thursday night comes along and Dr. Umber is up there, we're ready to go. So I can't think of a better person to set the tone for this January DE from Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. Let's give it up for our friend, Dr. Peter Amlinger.
Well, thank you very much for that, Brian. And I noticed your Christmas decorations, and I thought, you know, that Moriarty, I didn't think you were late taking him down. I thought you're ahead of the game for next year. I thought this guy's into early preparation, man. It was, so I guess it proves the point that it's always a matter of perspective. And I made myself a cup of dandelion root tea to sip on while I'm talking tonight. And before you all start wondering why I drink dandelion root tea, there's one reason. I like the taste. That's it. But on the back of the tea bag tab, it says the difference between a weed and a flower is judgment, author unknown. And it's funny because I always ask my patients, what's the difference between a weed and a flower? Because biologically speaking, unless things have changed from the time I did, yes, Paula, nice jacket, Four Directions Chiropractic College. But when I studied biology, there was no taxonomical difference, whatever. There was no difference between a weed and a flower. It was just whether if we perceived a plant was ugly, or if we perceived it was invasive, it was called a weed. If it was perceived to be pretty, and if it grew where we wanted it to grow, it was considered a flower. And that might be relevant for whatever message comes through me tonight, because there's a lot of perceived distractions around right now. And I said to Katrine while we were waiting for Brian, he was on an ICA call before he jumped on our call tonight. A lot of people are talking about the distractions that seem to be around right now. And my perception is there's no more distractions today than there was 5 years ago, or 2 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. There's always been, an infinite number of distractions. It's just a matter of whether or not you're distracted or focused. And I really want to peel and drill down on this concept of focus today, and get us to a point where we appreciate that it really is all about what we're focusing on. It's really our focus that creates our reality, our focus that creates our circumstance. And so you need to look around and look in the mirror and say, what's my reality like right now? And if it sucks, and I want you to be honest with yourself, if it sucks, you need to own it. You need to own it and say, I created this, and I was so good at creating this, I can actually change my focus and create something that looks totally different, that actually resonates with me, if that's where you're at right now. And maybe you're not. And if you look at your life and you can honestly take inventory and say, my life is great, it resonates on all levels in all areas, that's fantastic. Then keep doing what you're doing and keep your focus. And maybe you should be on the call next week, because we all have stuff we can work on and whatnot. And so if we just state the plain, simple truth, our reality is that which we've created. And it's okay. Like if you're in a spot right now, and I've certainly been there, and I still get there sometimes, where parts of my life seem to suck because I created them, that's okay, because I know that I'm just learning another bit of thing that will add to the collective wisdom I've accumulated over the years. So to me, wisdom is just a collection of errors that we've made and learned from over the years. So if you didn't make any mistakes, you probably wouldn't be collecting the wisdom that some of us have collected over the years. And I'm just being real with you. When I coached hockey, I used to tell my players all the time, we will learn more from our losses than we will from our wins. And so if you've got some perceived losses in life, just know that you're gonna those perceived losses will bear fruit, and you'll be much wiser and much stronger and probably much more focused as a result of them. So I want to start here. I want to start tonight with a story, and I'm going to read it to you. It's short. It came up in my reading this morning, and I thought, I know, Drew, I'll have Americano with you in spirit. But this just came up in my reading, and I want to drill down on this. And so it's out of Matthew, and it's the parable of the sower. Most, if not all of us, are familiar with it, but perhaps we haven't thought about it in a while. So the reading goes as such. Behold, a sower went out to sow, and as they sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and birds came and devoured them. Some seed fell on stony places where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them. But others fell on good ground and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30-fold. And so we can apply this parable to what's going on in the world right now. We can apply it to what's going on in our lives right now. We can apply it to our practice and some of our practice members or all of our practice members. And I think it's important that maybe we pause and reflect on the teachings in this parable, because as we extract the wisdom from it, it can really help us become a leader in chiropractic, a leader in our community, a leader in life. And so as we think about this, and we look at the wisdom in this teaching, when we look at it from the way Jesus explained the parable, he explained it like this. He said, when anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, then the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. And so we observe that in chiropractic. We see some chiropractors, maybe they go to a great principled school and they've had great principled teachers, but they never really let the seed of chiropractic germinate in their heart. They get out into the world, somebody else tells them a different story, and maybe a chiropractic college started out principle and it was snatched away. And so that definitely happens in chiropractic. It happens in our offices too. Sometimes a patient comes in and we tell them the story, and Neil Cohen post on Facebook today, just a hope that people's hearts are open at least enough to let the principle in, right? But some of our people's hearts aren't open to the principle when we first meet them or when they're first in the office. Maybe because of their physical state, maybe because of their state of mind, maybe because of previous programming, maybe because they're subluxated. Our job is still to tell the story, and then some of those people will be snatched away from us because they go to their medical doctor or their specialist or their whatever, or their family member, and they're just like, don't go to chiropractic, and they're gone. And that happens, and there's nothing we can do about it if we've done our best. And then there's the one who receives seed on the stony places, and this is the person who hears the word and receives it with joy, but because they don't work with it and they don't nurture it, it only endures for a little while because it doesn't put down deep roots. And so when persecution comes up for the chiropractor, when somebody questions the principle, when somebody challenges them, when difficult circumstances come along, they stumble. Dr. Sid trained us on this, and he talks about it in the Meadowlands experience when he's talking about locking the doors and not even getting up to go to the bathroom. Because he said, if you get up and you go out there, you're going to basically get distracted and you'll get weak. And so it was us training to stay the course, to be disciplined, to maintain our focus. And then the person who receives the seed among the thorns, or so if we go back to our patients, we've had some people, they come to our doctor's appointment and they're like, yeah, I'm coming for life. I'm bringing my whole family. I'm bringing my bowling team. I'm bringing everybody, man. And they come for 3 or 4 visits. They find out their insurance isn't going to cover it and they're gone, or whatever. They don't get better in 4 adjustments and they're gone, or whatever it might be. Then those who receive the seed among the thorns is the person who hears the word, but then the cares of the world, the deceitfulness of riches choke the word and they become unfruitful. And we're seeing this right now because people are getting so tied up in the rhetoric of what's going on in the world right now. And I'm going to suggest that none of it is part of our purpose as principled chiropractors. And I'll come back to that in a moment. It happens to chiropractors where they sit in their office and maybe they haven't nurtured the principle. They haven't prepared the soil to receive the principle and watered the soil and fertilized it with quiet contemplation to grow the crop. And so then they sit and they start thinking, well, I wonder how I can make money here. I can make money there. And it's all around us. It's all around us, maybe we get distracted by either end of the COVID discussion, either end of the American political discussion. So we might get distracted by the deceitfulness of riches. There's a guy, I saw something on Facebook, and N8 said, you know what, just bite. And the reason I did, it was one of those too good to be true scenarios. And so I thought, I'm just going to play this one out and see where it goes. So it was like, spend 1 hour a week for an extra 10 grand a month. And I'm like, so I put my name down, finally heard back from them, and you can see exactly where it's going. The 10 grand turned into 100 grand. But at the end of it, it's like, if you're interested, we can sit down and see if we can help you, and they want to sell you something, right? And so we need to train our eyes so that they don't even see those things. We need to be so focused on what we're supposed to be focused on that we don't even see those things. And then there's that person who receives the seed on good ground, and who hears the word and understands it, who receives the word with an open heart, as Dr. Cohen said, who then indeed bears fruit and produces, some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. And the teaching there is, don't be comparing yourself to others. What is a success for you is not the same for somebody else. It's got to come from the inside out. So this is a powerful, powerful parable, and we can look at our life. We could apply this to our relationships. We could apply it to our lifestyle habits. We could apply it to our practice. We could apply it to our engagement in chiropractic and see which one of those 4 seeds am I? Where was I sown? And at the same time, because we are all sowers of the seed, we've been called to be sowers of the seed. We've been called to profess a principle. And so that means preparing the soil, right? That means going out and cultivating the field. It means, and that's about preparation. That's about preparing yourself to be a hollow vessel that Spirit can work through to deliver the message. It's not about canned, planned stuff. It's about being a good, principled DE chiropractor. And so when we start to think about this, I think about King David, and it came to me a few weeks ago, like, am I a David, or am I one of David's sheep? Right? David was a king, and people saw his potential and saw his destiny in him before he could see it and before he believed it for himself. But the key to his success was he kept his eyes focused on the Lord. He kept his eyes focused on following the will of God for him. And he weakened and wandered sometimes, but he always turned back, and that was the key to his success. So when we look at the current circumstances, we can't let the current circumstances complicate our principle. Our principle is our principle. It's not going to change. The times we serve in are always going to change. So this year it might be COVID that could be the distraction if we choose it to be. It could be Trump versus Biden, as I said. It could be, it could be the either side of the narrative. It could be all of that. It could be the Super Bowl coming up. It could, like anything. You choose it, right? And people will always try to get us off topic, but really, like in my viewpoint, COVID's none of my business. It's not my expertise. I don't want to talk about it, right? And if we step back and let the people who should be talking about it talk about it, they'll talk about it. For instance, up in Ontario here, our prior chief medical officer, so the guy in charge of public health, the guy who trained our current chief medical officer, has written a letter to the premier of our province, the equivalent of one of your governors, and basically calling the government out, calling the chief medical officer out, saying, you're not looking at the right data, you're analyzing it incorrectly, and you're making bad decisions. And you need to go back to the drawing board. It was a very well-written letter. Now, who's going to have more credibility? With the press, it got published. Who's going to have more credibility, a prior chief medical officer or a chiropractor? Right? So sit and think about that. I can spend all that energy trying to convince people, or I can be a chiropractor. Or I can just focus on my divine purpose. Or I can just focus on my focus, right? And getting still and just being very much aware of the flow of life through me and becoming that river of life and just allowing everything else be exactly what it is, which is a leaf floating by on my river of life, or some debris floating by on my river of life, or a dead fish floating by on my river of life, or somebody in a canoe floating by on my river of life. But just let all those small things float on by and stay focused on my river, stay focused on being my river. For it's been said, when an electron vibrates, the universe shakes. And so let's focus on that. What's your current vibration, right? What have you been dwelling on? And what vibration has that been creating within you? Is it lifting your vibration up? Or is it pulling your vibration down? And just getting all spizzed up for the sake of getting spizzed up is temporary and fleeting. So you can get all animated over a news story, over a decision, but it's not the vibration we're looking for. It's kind of like when I played hockey, I was a shitty skater, so I just stood in front of the net and waited the puck come to me, right? I just sat there and banged away until either the whistle went, I was knocked on my ass, or the puck went in the net, right? And I would get cross-checked in the back of the neck. I would get speared in the nuts. I would get punched in the head, and it didn't matter. My job was to stand in front of the net and wait for the puck to come, to bug the goalie and take all that stuff to create a scoring chance for my team. So I did it. Right? And sometimes I lost my focus. I turned around and punched the guy back. I get a penalty. Now I couldn't do my job anymore, right? For 2 minutes. So think about what your vibration is like currently. And as I said, be honest with yourself. Use the wisdom in the parable to place yourself where your vibration is. Your vibe creates your tribe. It creates your life. So if you want a different life, change your vibration and realize that judgment and guilt and anger and hatred and fear, they're all low-level vibrations. And negative thinking, low-level vibration. Our innate brain doesn't even know how to entertain a negative. As Joe Accurso taught me, it doesn't say don't eat the cookie, it says eat the ice cream. Chew on that one for a while. There's a massive teaching in there. So when we pare all this down, at the end of the day, there's 4 things I think we need to focus on. The first one is our divine purpose. And when you boil it all down, like if we really simplify our principle and simplify each of our divine purposes, they're identical, and that is to move towards unconditional love, to be unconditional love, to let love through us. That's step 1. That should be our number 1 focus. So if anything in your life doesn't allow love to bubble up inside you, if it blocks that above down, inside out flow of love through you, it's time to look at that. It's time to weed the garden. It's time to maybe pick that seed up and take it out of the thorns and put it over in the field that you've been preparing, or to get rid of the weeds, right? So it's about unconditional love, learning to love yourself unconditionally and then loving others the same way. The great commandment, which is 100% in alignment with our principle of chiropractic. There can be no distinction between God, universal intelligence, unconditional love, and the subunit of that intelligence within each of us called our individual innate intelligence, which is separate from, yet not separate from, universal intelligence. So we have a little bit of source within us, a little God particle within each and every of each of us. And it's got all the properties and characteristics of universal intelligence. And it is love. That's your essence. It's within you. And it's your job to remember that, first of all, and to move towards it and to get rid of anything in your life that tarnishes that. Guilt, wounds, anger, judgment, subluxation, programming, all of it needs to go. If it doesn't, if something in your life drags your vibration down, it's time to get rid of it. If something in your life causes your heart space to constrict, gotta let go of it. Move towards those things that open your heart up. Move away from those things that cause it to constrict. Move away from those people, if they're people. Mainly their habits. Mainly they're your perceptions, your programming. So there's work to do here for sure. The second thing we should be focused on is simply to be obedient to God's will for us. See, Dr. Sid always used to say, nothing happens unless first a dream. Well, let's replace the word dream for inner vision. And let's commit to spending time in that sacred silence, just introspecting and being quiet and being our river and praying that we receive an inner vision for our life. not just our life in chiropractic, for our life, because it's in there. When you were loved into existence, it was tattooed on your soul. So it's about becoming love, opening your heart space up, going into the silence and sitting and waiting until you receive an inner vision and guidance. It's about not eating until innate tells you to eat something. You know, it's January, so we've all set goals and stuff. I'm seeing Moriarty's on the weights, which is great, right? But where do our goals come from? For many years, I set goals based upon other people's definition of success, what other people were doing in their lives. Oh, he's running a marathon. Maybe I should run a marathon. He's jumping out of airplanes. Maybe I should jump out of airplanes. Thank God I never did that one. That's airplanes are for watching movies and drinking wine. Let the pilot do the work. The parachute stays in the package. My belief, my value system, I'm okay with it, right? But we set all these goals based on other people's guidance. Maybe it's well-meaning, other people's programming, our wounds, et cetera, et cetera. What about getting quiet, right? What about setting a goal that says, I'm going to move my body the way my innate guides me to move my body. I'm going to eat the way my innate guides me to eat. I'm going to sleep when innate tells me to sleep, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let it come from within out. Like we're either expressions of the principle or we're not, right? So we've got becoming unconditional love and being love. It's about being obedient to God's will for us. So that means living an above, down, inside out life in all areas of our life. And to me, that's what being a principled chiropractor is. Being a principled chiropractor is not being able to, memorize the green books. God knows I tried that, done some of it, and puking them back up for people. That's no better than somebody memorizing a script in their office and becoming a robot. It's about internalizing those principles and being an expression of those principles. Being a principal chiropractor has got nothing to do with nutrition, nothing to do with exercise, nothing to do with, biomechanics, nothing to do with your technique, nothing to do with talking symptoms or not. In my book, being a principal chiropractor means understanding and appreciating the principle of life, Palmer's law of life, and applying that principle in each area of your life consistently, living an above, down, inside out life in all areas, becoming your innate, mastering your relationship with your innate, which allows you to master your relationship with the Creator and all of creation. So that's job 2. Number 3 is understanding and professing this chiropractic life principle to the masses. Don't be hiding it under a bushel. We've got a fantastic opportunity right now with everything that's going on in the world and where people are at and how badly they're stressed out, which will ultimately lead to many of them being more subluxated than ever, if that's possible. And we have an opportunity to reach those people and refine our story and talk about adaptability, talk about living in communion with creation. But we can't do it and this is where we prepare the soil. We got to prepare the soil of our mind and our heart first. The book says you have to clean the inside of the cup and the plate first. And it says it's not what goes into a man's mouth or a woman's mouth that defiles them. It's what comes out of the mouth, which all starts as a thought. So we got to prepare this field so it can become white with the harvest. And we do it by studying this principle and contemplating this principle and being this principle, and then sitting and thinking about and not thinking too much about it, but getting one with a person and open, or with a group of people, it doesn't matter, but feeling the room, feeling their innate. So we get this something special circumstance where we've got the presence of source energy moving through us, our innate and the person's innate coming into communion together. And we tell this simple story, keeping it simple, keeping it pure. And we do it wherever we go. And the conversation I'm having with my CAs right now is, try and do it with fewer words. Because thoughts and feelings move through walls that words can never penetrate. So let's focus on being fully present, being fully open-hearted, which is unconditionally loving, and responding innately to people, observing and optimizing, if you will, our vibration, knowing that vibration will go out and it will attract people who vibrate in a similar manner, or it will create change in those people. The person with the highest vibration wins. So we come in the room, the person walks in the clinic, they're filling out the paperwork and they start to heal up. Their vibration starts to change because they come into coherence with the vibration of the office. That's how critical it is. So like, wear your cell phones when you're in your office. They should be in a drawer locked as far as I'm concerned. Maybe even turned off so they can't track you. Get rid of the distractions in the office. You're there to serve, be with the people, CAs and docs. Be an expression of this principle. Tell the story. Tell it outside your office. And just be something different. It's like you're walking around your town with a flag sticking out of your head. Different. But it's attractive different. It's not creepy different, It's not goofy different. It's not hippie different. It's just different. Like, look at that guy. He's magnetic. Look at that gal. They're just magnetic. They just emanate. They ooze life. Like Sid did. You'd feel him in the room before he came in the room all the time. I remember when I took Walter Sanchez up to the Healing Rock. It's an energy vortex where the natives have been coming to do ceremony for centuries. And we were like about 8 miles away. And Walter's like, wow, you can feel it. Are we close? And I'm like, kind of, Walter, we're like 8 miles away. But that's how powerful it is. That's how tuned in Walter is, because he's done the work. And then the last bit is we focus on checking and adjusting the masses, because that's what it all boils down to, checking and adjusting the masses and doing so in a masterful way. And I'm not here to talk about technique. I don't care what technique you do, as long as it resonates with you, as long as you understand it, as long as you work towards mastering it, as long as you can communicate it in congruency with the principle, and as long as it is congruent with the principle. And anything else in your office, in your professional life, is a distraction, in my opinion. And if you focus on these 4 things, being love, being obedient, mastering the principle in its profession, mastering the checking and mastering the administration of the principle, checking and adjusting people, you will transform your office, you'll transform your community. And you will be that seed that fell in fertile ground. And you'll have a massive harvest. That's not what it's about. The harvest just means you harvest more things that you have to do in your life, like starting chiropractic schools, or running on a board, or sitting with the eyes. Your vision will just keep expanding and expanding and expanding and expanding, which is what Sid, I remember having lunch with Sid, and he's like, Peter, I don't know how big it gets. And he's like, what? Or I'm like, what? And he's like, the vision. So just go inside and court that magnificent vision, a vision of a humanity free of chronic subluxation, a humanity fully connected to their innate intelligence, a humanity open-hearted, emanating unconditional love, a humanity loving themselves, loving creation, understanding the cycle of life, and living in the now, knowing that life in this form, in this dimension, is finite, but we can do things, knowing that life in this physical dimension, this third dimension, is finite, but knowing that every thought, feeling, and action we take impregnates the world and influences the universal vibration and can either raise it up or lower it down. There's no standing still in the universe. So it's a big deal. We have a massive responsibility here. There's no other profession, there's no other group of people that have the knowledge of the wisdom of the ages that is emanating through all cultures. Every culture has talked about these principles. The natives talked about it. The Greeks talked about it. Didi and BJ talked about it. Still talked about it. Reiki masters talk about it. Everyone talks about it. Nobody's got a more efficient tool to shift the vibration than we do. Our piezoform on an atlas changes the vibration for that person like that. And because we're all connected, it therefore changes the vibration of the entire universe. And we get to sit back. We don't get to sit back. We get to sit in the front of this ride, right? We're in the front. It's like Judson on a roller coaster, if you've ever seen that video. We are there. A couple of weeks ago, I had the honor of checking this little guy. It was like his third or fourth adjustment. He's the third generation in his family. Grandpa's in the room with his daughter and with the baby, and he's been having colic, and he's not been sleeping great, and he had a bad number of nights. And they're living up in north at their cottage, but they came down because he was just so fussy. And I checked him, and I gave him a tiny little, well, I don't know how tiny or big it was. I did what needed to be done. I checked him. His atlas was subluxated. I adjusted him. I gave him to Grandpa, who's this big man, big Irish cop. And I just saw this guy melt. He's so in love with his grandson. It was beautiful just to see that soft side of him. And we celebrated it, right? And I've adjusted the family for years. And we checked Mom and we checked Grandpa, and we sent them on the way, and they came back the next day for a recheck. And I'm like, how'd little dude do last night? And Ron's like, he slept for 4 hours, got up and fed, and slept for another 4 hours. Chiropractic is awesome. And the clinic was packed, really packed, and he's not a quiet man, so the whole office heard it. That was a harvest. of a seed that was planted a long time ago. They didn't think twice about getting the grandchild checked. They had faith, confidence, and belief that the adjustment was going to be a positive thing for the child. And even if they hadn't, it wouldn't have mattered because my vibration was higher, wasn't higher than theirs, but it would have been if it needed to be. So just to participate in that and feel the vibration as we celebrated this little guy's life and this little miracle called 4 hours, short feed, another 4 hours, we have the best job in the world. And it's great to celebrate those moments, but we should use them as fuel. Because for every little guy who's getting adjusted, there's tens of thousands of little guys who aren't. And we need to reach them. So it's about long days and sleepless nights. We can't afford to be distracted. We need to know our role, let other people worry about their roles. And the best way to wake people up is to tell them our story, check their brainstem, and clear it out as necessary. So that's what I got for tonight. And I'll see you again Friday morning at DE, virtually, but I'll be there. And you know, here's the thing, I would love to be, Tracy and I would love to be at DE in the flesh on Friday. We're not going to be. But if we've listened to Sid over the years, and Ian Grassam, and Sigafus, and Dick Santo, and Chuck, like all of them, this is an opportunity for us to feel each other energetically, to feel the vibration, to feel the connection that walls and bricks and mortar and miles cannot interrupt. So I sit here and I can feel each and every one of you, you know, those that I know are on the call because you've put up little messages, and those that I don't know whether you're on the call or not. I just feel you because you're part of the DE family. I feel many right now. Balsamo and Jamie Siller, I feel, and Pastro, I feel, and Paul Roses, I feel all of yous. And Izzy down in front, I feel y'all. Because you're in my heart. Because DE is inside us. We are the dynamic essential. You can't take it away from us. And we will be in the flesh soon enough, but maybe the Creator wants us to feel each other from a distance, to really, really, really intimately feel one another with an open heart, as if we're sitting in the sea. We sit in the same room. We sit in a room where all spirits live together. It's called the sacred silence. And there are times where my beautiful wife still, we're going to be married 10 years in March, been around each other a long time, and she will still ask me with some regularity, what are you thinking right now? And I look at her in the eyes and I say, literally, there's not a conscious thought in my mind right now. See, that's what I strive for. I don't want to think. I want to be thought through. I don't want to. I remember sitting with Sigafus, and we were talking about preparing talks, and he's like, what do you prepare? Message comes through you. And he's right. We have to prepare. We have to prepare by shutting this off and opening this up. We have to prepare by seeing the world as it should be instead of as it is. We can't let the outside world penetrate our inner vision. We have to see the person completely healed and fully restored while they're lying on our table before we even touch them. Whatever that means for them, knowing that for some people, the ultimate healing is getting out of their earth suit and moving on to the next dimension. But doing so subluxation free, clear, connected, open-hearted. And that's what our responsibility is. That's the oath we took. If you swore an oath and you read between the lines, that's the oath. So we are sowers of seed that will grow into the humanity that BJ saw and that Sid saw and that I see and that others see, as long as we prepare the soil of our mind, the soil of our heart, so that we pour out a fertilizer that every seed can germinate in and grow into the beautiful flower that that person's supposed to grow into the mighty oak that that person's supposed to grow into. That's what it's all about, man. That's what we get to do every day. But we need to do it with awareness and with consciousness and mindfulness and with total presence. So let's go out and get at it. That's all I got for you tonight. Love and appreciate you. And we'll see you on the Great Red Road. Maybe see you in the Sacred Silence tomorrow at 5 a.m. Love and appreciate you all. Thank you.
Peter.
Yes, sir.
That was absolutely beautiful, my friend.
And my mic was on?
Yes, your mic was muted the entire time. We didn't hear a word you said, but
people can lip read. We're good.
No, that was one of my favorite talks you've ever given, my friend. That was just so on point, and so what I personally needed to hear. I saw so many comments across the bottom. I know it's what everyone else needs to hear as well. So thank you so much, Peter. That was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you, my friend. It's my honor to share with this group. You're all my family. We're brothers and sisters on the same mission, and I'm just honored that the leadership trusts me enough to deliver a message, and I'm just thankful that Tracy and I are part of this wonderful tribe.
It was as beautiful as a day at Port Credit.
Yes, sir. We're there. We were in Port Credit on Sunday. We went for a walk.
Beautiful. Right on Lake Ontario there, guys. Check that out.
And found it's called Dry Age. It's this butcher shop. Oh, my God. The only meat I've seen that's better is the moose meat that I got in my freezer.
Beautiful.
But now I'm getting distracted.
Yes. But DE has officially started, guys. If you're still tuning in, and DE has kicked off. It's official. We've started DE, and we will see everyone either in person or virtually Thursday night, Friday morning. We can't wait to see you all. Thank you, Dr. Peter Amlinger, for your amazing message tonight. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, and thank everyone for tuning in.
God bless everybody.
Amen.